All right. So we're going to do just some quick introductions so you can meet our work study team. So nice to meet you all. My name is Michelle Gomez. I am the Associate Director of Employer Relations here at the Career Center. I've been here at UCR for about 5 years, also supporting the Work Study program. And my role supports with those who are any kind of handshake related questions, recruitment of students, and usually do that in partnership with other folks here at the Career Center. So nice to meet you all, and I'm going to pass it to Leticia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leticia Martinez. I'm the Assistant Director of Customer Service here at Financial Aid. And for under my umbrella, I actually have Federal Work Study that's under me. And Alex is our fiscal analyst who is also part of our team. And she'll introduce herself as well. But I'll pass it on to Isabel.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabel. I'm the work study program graduate assistant. I work a lot with Michelle with a lot of work study stuff, and I also am the one who approves a lot of the work study positions that are posted on Handshake and keeping track of like all of emails, work study related and stuff like that.
Last but not least.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. I am in the financial aid office. As Leticia said, I'm a fiscal analyst. And for work study, I do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I collect the contracts and then I would do onboardings for off campus students and things like that. And I usually am the one answering any emails to the work study at ucr.edu email. And that will be brought up a little bit later. I'll pass it back to Michelle.
All right, thank you so much. And I just have to say, we are a small but mighty team, and we do our best to support the campus community with our work study program specifically. And I do want to give a shout out to our partners in human resources. We do lean on them a lot as it relates to policy and student employment guidelines. So I know some of them are in the room today too. So. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and just wanted to let you know we will be doing some Q&A at the end. We have a bit of content we want to get through, and hopefully we answer most of your questions, but we want to be able to get those questions from you and make sure we address all of those things before you leave today. So please scan the QR code, or Alex, if you're able to maybe drop that link in the chat. And then again, we'll get to that at the end. So with that, I'm going to pass it. Oh, first, sorry, agenda. So what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview of what the work study program is. I know some of you are newer to recruiting with the work study program. So we'll share a little bit about what it is, and in particular, some updates for this year, specifically around our classifications, as well as some important dates and deadlines that are around the corner. We're going to talk about how to recruit students for those who plan on doing some recruitment here pretty soon. As well as how to hire students. So once you've identified who you'd like to get started, what that process looks like, and then some resources and then recruitment opportunities we have for you as well. And again, we'll kind of get to your questions here at the end. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Alex to get us started.
So I'm going to go over a little bit of the just basic work study overview, just kind of what work study is and the kind of classifications that we have available to you. Okay, so what Work Study is a need-based employment program funded by the federal government. These come in the form of financial aid awards to students who qualify based off their FAFSA information. And students can obtain a Work Study award to either use on or off campus for jobs. Usually, a normal award will be about $3,000 that they have to use for the year. And these do not have to be repaid. So basically, how the Work Study award works is as a student is working, we'll talk about it in the next slide. There is a split between what the Federal Work Study Award will pay and then what your department will pay. And so it's just a good use of for your funding so you don't have to pay the student 100%. And so in the next slide, well, yeah, that'll be the next slide. So this is just a little bit about who hires work study students. As on-campus employers, any on-campus job can be a work study position. You would just have to go through Handshake and go through all the necessary requirements for that, and those will be in a little bit later. But yeah, so any on-campus department can have a work study job for any student. And so if you do not currently have a work study job and you have a student, you can make that work study job so a student can use it. For off-campus employers, usually those work study positions are given to local school districts and nonprofits, usually in tutoring positions. And so these are the types of work study jobs and the classifications. The C classification is the community service. And so these positions service the community as opposed to the agency. So the students within these positions usually are helping the community in ways like childcare provider or tutors. Usually on campus, the most common community service positions are positions within the library. And then the E and A classifications are usually our tutoring positions. So the E classification is in America Counts. That is math tutoring from K through 9. And then the A classification is the reading tutors from K through 6. These two are usually used for the off-campus positions within school districts. And then the F classification is they're kind of just basic work study. So this is just any position that doesn't really classify in the other three. So any clerical work, working in dining, working like front office kind of position, anything like that would all be within the F classification. And then so for on-campus positions, usually the C classification and the F classification are the most common. And something to note of is that the F classification is the 65%, 35% split, meaning that the Federal Work Study Award that the student has received would pay 65% of the student's salary, and your department would pay 35%. And then that C classification, the community service, 75% would get paid by the Federal Work Study Award, and only your department would only have to pay 25%. And then we do have a new classification, which is labeled as M. It's our civic engagement program. That includes positions that primarily involve civic engagement. So like things like to help register for voting and things like that, that would qualify within that. And that is something new we have, and that will the workstation program pays 100% of the student's hourly rate. So if you were to hire a student with this, then you wouldn't have to pay anything towards the student technically through your own department funds. The Work Study Award would pay 100% for that. And then these are some important dates and deadlines for the work study year that we have coming up. August 21st, which is next week, I believe, is when work study job postings would go live on Handshake. So this is when students can start applying for these work study positions. So you can start posting them now, but then they just won't be approved until next week. And then that's when students can again see them and then start applying. And then there's about a month period before September 21st is when the work study eligibility period begins. So within this month from August 21st to September 21st, you can start kind of the process of submitting contracts and things like that. And if you want to start onboarding processes for the students, but then just not have them technically work until I believe September 22nd is the Monday. So that would probably be more likely day for them to start. But yeah, in this month between August 21st and September 21st is when you can kind of start that process of getting them onboarded. And then during the school year, students can only work up to 19 hours per week since they are students first. But then when we have winter break from December 15th to January 2nd and spring break from March 23rd to 27th, because student classes are not in session, students can work up to 39 hours a week. And then the spring quarter will end on June 20th, 2026 for the work study period. And so that's the last day that students can use work study funds since we do not offer work study in the summer. And then I'll pass it back over to Michelle.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. I know that was a lot of information. So again, we will be providing these slides as well after the fact if you didn't catch some of those dates. But again, August 21st is kind of the big date. And so we have for those of you that are needing to recruit for this year, we have some important steps that you all will want to start taking right now to prepare yourself and in hopes of being able to start them as soon as possible, right when the fall begins. So for those of you who are newer to working with us, just to let you know, the first step is going to be posting your position in Handshake. So it is required by federal guidelines that all postings are posted for that current year. So even if you worked with this student in previous years, you already had a posting and you want to continue with them, we still will need a new posting to be put on Handshake for this year. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But for those who are new to Handshake, Handshake is our job posting platform that we use, again, for all work study opportunities as well as just non-work study. And the way that Handshake is designed is there are company accounts and then there are users. So we organize companies as departments. So whatever department you are in, so I see you, Charlene, hi, from TAPS, your department would have your own UCR TAPS employer account. And so I think that's the first step is if you know that your department already has an account, then what that also means is that that company would have one owner for that account. So if you are unsure if your department has a company account, you're more than welcome to reach out to us at careercenter@ucr.edu. We can kind of help you get started and identify who that owner is so that you can request a new user account to be added to that department. So, and if you are the person who is the first for your department to create a Handshake account, we usually ask that you all create it with this kind of naming convention. So it'd be UCR, comma, whatever your department name is. And then again, that just helps to unify and streamline so we can easily identify our on-campus partners. We really ask that you all try not to create more than one account if within the same department. It just gets really kind of messy. So, but if you have a unique situation, I know some of you have like a shared service model where maybe your role supports more than one department. I would say let's talk and we'll see if we can help find a solution for you around that. So some other common questions we'll get is, oh no, the previous owner has moved on from UCR, or maybe they moved to a different department. There is a way that if they are still at UCR using that same email where they can easily transfer ownership to whoever the new contact is. But if they've left UCR and they no longer are using that email, then that's where we have to submit a ticket to Handshake and they usually can help us out. So that would be a scenario to contact us at Career Center at ucr.edu and our team can help get that resolved for you so you guys can move forward with requesting a new owner. And then if you kind of know that you're going to be moving on and you are that owner, again, all of that is pretty easy to do on your own before you transition. So that is kind of getting started in Handshake. So once you have a Handshake account, the next thing you'll need to consider is, one, are you going to be recruiting new work study students, or do you plan on rehiring work study students? So there's just slightly different instructions around that. Again, both you will need to post your position on Handshake, but the biggest difference is when you're posting, there's an option whether you select yes, if it's a work study job. And then if it is a position where you're going to be rehiring a student, all that we ask is that in the job title, you're going to be putting work study in the title, but then adding the word reserved. So that cues our office to know that we don't want this position to go live to students to begin applying. We're going to review it, eventually approve it, and then we'll expire it immediately. So that way you'll have your job posting to continue with the hiring process, but it doesn't need to go live for recruitment. So again, and then if you are wanting to recruit, then again, the way that Handshake works is that once students accept their award in our web, they automatically get access to work study jobs in Handshake. So there's no way that the way that the Handshake system works, there's no way for non-work study students to be able to access your work study jobs. However, we do have a disclaimer that we put on all postings that provides steps specific for work study students, and there are specific criteria that we need to see on every posting, which is why that sometimes it can take up to 5 business days for us to review and add that specific verbiage and approve. So please be patient. And again, if there is any delays and you are needing to see a quicker turnaround, Career Center at ucr.edu, we're happy to support and do what we can to move things along. So what are some things that you need to be aware of when you're putting together that job description? So these are just kind of best practices that are going to really optimize the best recruitment possible. So really thinking about how that position is going to be benefiting the students' learning. I know for some of you, maybe you think about these positions as this is just kind of a, admin work. This may not contribute much to their career, but there are so many things that students are going to be learning and working in your offices. For some of them, this is their very first job ever, and they're learning really critical skills. So being able to share that and let them know what they will gain as a result is really important. And we hope you all see it that way too, that you get the opportunity to really shape these students' experiences. What are the qualifications for the position? Where is this position located? Is it remote, hybrid, or in person? That information is very important to our students. What makes your department special or unique? And then what skills are required and can be learned on the job? Things to not include, generic information, never-ending lists of responsibilities, long-winded paragraphs, and just being mindful of language to make sure that it is inclusive. So, these are some things, just best practices, and we will maybe at times give suggestions, but at the end of the day, this is what we need to see on your job description in order to approve. So please include work study in the title. Again, as I mentioned, if you are rehiring a student, add that word reserved to make sure that we expire it immediately. Make note that minimum wage is currently $16.50 an hour as of this year. However, I'll share a little bit later. We do have a student employment guidelines published by Central HR that is also a great resource. If you say you have kind of lead roles and you're, you kind of try to create those leadership opportunities, you may want to consider a different title code that has a different range. So those are some resources for you to consider. But we are looking for anything above 1650. Qualifications and responsibilities. This is really important because we need to make sure that the responsibilities and what they're actually doing lines up with the classification that we are giving you. So it is the Career Center's job to review and assign the classification. You may say, oh, this is a community service. And for those who've worked with us before, add that classification in the title, but we may change it if we feel like based on your details and your job description, if it's better aligned with, the federal classification, we may do that. So again, just make sure in your details of your job description that you are making that clear that you're meeting those particular requirements. For weekly hours, as Alex already mentioned, again, student employment guidelines state that students shouldn't work more than 19 hours a week while they're full-time students, and then 39 hours when they are not enrolled in classes. So these are things that we need to see, and we may put your position in pending until you're able to resolve these. So just wanting to make you aware. All right, so then this is just a quick snapshot. Again, as I mentioned, we're the ones who are going to be adding that classification. So you would put work study in the title. We're going to fill in whatever that classification is. And then you would have your job title and department. And then, yeah, you will need to kind of reference this. I'm sure your accounting folks will need to know what that title, oh my gosh, position position pool ID, that's the word, is, so that, because that's going to depend on what the work study split is, for your office. So make sure that they too are aware. All right, so interviewing, this is, the step, once you've kind of identified candidates, we recommend as a best practice to ask them to bring their work study eligibility notification form to that interview. So this is gonna show you as the employer, one, that they are work study eligible, and two, how much their work study award is. And then you'll see there's a second line that shows their remaining balance. So even if you're recruiting midway through the year, you can get kind of an update. If, say, they've already utilized some of their award, you can be able to see their most updated version that tells them what they have left. So this is a really important piece, and you will need that document when you start the employment process. So we recommend to ask for that. And if students do have questions on their eligibility and the amount of their award, then they want to contact finaid@ucr.edu directly, and they'll be able to answer those questions. But again, being transparent in the interview process regarding your expectations, in particular for kind of remote, in-person, or hybrid arrangements, is always a good thing. Yeah, we're here to support as well in terms of resources for best practices on interviewing. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our financial aid team to talk about the hiring process.
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm going to go over the process once you have a work study student in mind, on who you want to hire, how that process will work through our office and financial aid to have the work study funds be used correctly. So once the student is identified as a final candidate, they're going to initiate the work study process via a contract that we have. So basically how it will work is that the student will fill out a work study new hire form. This link can be either found on the financial aid website or on the Career Center website. Once they fill that form out correctly and have the correct emails into it, they will get a student employment contract that will come to them via DocuSign. And on this contract, they'll fill out some basic information about themselves, their name, their student ID number, um, phone number, email, and what the job that they're going to be working in as. And they will attach that work study eligibility notification that Michelle had just talked about earlier, where it says how much they have been awarded for the year and how much they have left. And they will need to attach the handshake job posting that they had been applied to and put into as a position. So that will be required for both of the by the student, and then they will have to sign it then, and then we'll go to the supervisor. And then you would review that, and the supervisor would put some information about the hourly rate for the student and how many hours roughly they would work. And then if the student didn't have access to that job posting, like for example, if the student was a returning student, so it was that reserve position that got expired immediately, then the supervisor would need to attach that position since the student would not have access to that. And that eligibility notification and that job posting are both required. So if either of them are not attached to it, then we cannot approve it. But then once we do receive it and everything looks good and we can approve it, then we would send out an email to the student and the supervisor saying that we have received the contract and that you are good to go for the onboarding process. And once you receive that, then your home department can work with the onboarding team to have the student onboarded correctly. And one important thing to note is that the position pool ID needs to be correct. So, for example, we'll have issues with maybe the student got onboarded into a C position, so community service, but maybe we never received a contract. And so the student naturally is put in the F position, that plain federal work study. And so if you don't submit the contract and you onboard them into the C position, then we would need to change that and through our systems to have the correct COA be used to have the work study funds be pulled out via the C position. And if we don't have that contract, then we wouldn't be able to change that within our system. So then the student would not be receiving work study funds, and so your department would then have to pay 100% of the student's wages. And so yeah, it is very important that the contract is submitted and that the correct position pool ID is changed. So for example, again, another example we have is kind of the opposite effect where the student will be we'll turn in a contract under a C position, and then we'll change it to the C position behind the scenes for the student, but then the onboarding team will onboard them into that F position. So then again, the students' work study funds are not being used because they're not set up correctly, and your department would have to pay 100% of the students' wages. So it is just very important that the correct position pool ID that is on the handshake job posting that is turned in is the correct one that you are onboarding the student into. And then the next slide, it's very important that that you would monitor the student's hours. Usually we prefer the student to do this, but you can as well, because we do have an option on the contract where you can put in the students work study award, so like $3,000 for example, and then you can put in their hourly rate, and then you would get a roughly amount of hours that they would have to work for the entire school year, so you would have access to be able to monitor those students hours. And so that is important because once a student does exhaust their hours, then you would have to pay 100% of the student's wages if there was not an increase in work study or anything like that. So it is important that as maybe the student is getting closer to 0 hours left remaining, that an increase appeal is submitted or anything like that. And so that's why it is important to monitor the students' hours. For example, we have an example here on the screen that if the student would be earning like $16 an hour, then and they would had a $3,000 available in funds, they would only have about 187 hours to work. That's for the entire school year. So if they did work like up to 19 hours a week, which is the most amount that they could work, then they could only work for about 9 weeks. So it really depends on how long you want to keep the student, especially if they don't get an increase or anything like that. So yeah, it's very important that the student hours are monitored. Um, and usually we're not monitoring that ourselves with the on-campus students. So if you do want to work with your student and make sure they're monitoring it, to make sure that when they're getting closer to 0 hours that they could do those appeals and things, since we are not monitoring that. So yeah, that would be on like the student and the home department. And then on the next slide, we have some important employment contract reminders. And so this has kind of been brought up this past year a little bit more. On that student employment contract, you do have program requirements that the student has to be enrolled at least half time. They need to demonstrate financial and they need to maintain satisfactory academic progress, or SAP. If the students are not meeting these requirements, like let's say they have graduated already, like in the fall they graduate. Um, if they're not meeting these requirements, they are not allowed to be using these work study funds. So if they fail to meet SAP requirements due to GPA issues or something, they are not allowed to be working in these federal work study positions. And we will, in the financial aid office, we do throughout the year go through documents that we have to make sure that students are meeting these, and if they are not, we will make you take these students from these work study positions. So if you did want the students to still work, like let's say they didn't maintain at their SAP requirements, and you did still want the student to work, you would just have to keep them on as and pay 100% of their funds, as they would not be allowed to work with the work study position. And then just at the bottom, it's important that the start date isn't until the contract is signed. And we give you that email just to make sure that everything is set up correctly behind the scenes in case the student is working like a C position and things like that. And I'll pass it back over to Michelle.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. We're getting close to the tail end, so please do input any questions that you have so we can have a really good discussion for our Q&A. So just some quick resources, because again, I know there's a lot of details, things to remember. We have a few resources for you. So obviously our website, which Isabel, I might ask if you can drop that link in the chat. It's going to be a great resource for you on a lot of what we've discussed. But this is a one-page guide for how to hire a UCR student. So kind of outlines the process we've talked about, starting from recruitment to interviewing, and then you've hired. So all those kind of important documents we discussed outlined here, and we have that on our website. Also here, as you can see on the slides. So this is a great resource. And we also have a version for students. So again, both can be found on the website. We also have a job posting guide, and we will send, when we do a follow-up email, we'll send out the direct link for this guide, but this really kind of breaks down the whole posting process, exactly what we need to see on that posting, and hopefully be able to make that streamlined and simple for you. Or if you have like a different person in your office who will be doing the postings, this could be a really great resource for them to navigate that process. We also have a resource hub for managers. So I mentioned before that HR has published a really great guidelines for us around student employment, which breaks down some of the different classifications and important policies to keep in mind. For example, if you want to promote your student, what what process needs to happen in order for an increase and kind of documentation that is needed, as well as, again, those salary ranges and so on. So I encourage everybody to review that. Also, NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. They have put together career competencies. So these are considered the top kind of competencies that students need to be successful in their career post graduation. And so there's some really great resources for those of you who have the capacity. I know some offices you hire lots of students, and maybe your ability to be able to have kind of a deep investment in each student's career development might be more challenging. But for those of you who do, I encourage you to take a look at some of those resources because they give you some great learning opportunities for students to develop in some of these core areas and hopefully be able to walk away in building those skills. So also, we have some free resources for both students and for supervisors, to be able to help you as well as your students in some of their training and development. So just wanting to put that out there for those of you that are looking for those kind of materials. And then I'm really excited to share for those of you who've been recruiting with us for a while, we are bringing back our student employment job fair. We are going to be hosting this on October 2nd. This is going to be for both on and off campus employers for those part-time opportunities. So this could be work study or non-work study jobs, but we will definitely do a strong push for our work study students to attend. But this is an opportunity to recruit when there's going to be quite a few students looking, and being able to just meet them face to face beyond kind of the handshake job platform, hopefully, I think can help you identify those who would be a good fit for your departments. So it is free to our campus partners to attend. And then registration deadline is September 18th. We do have limited spots available because it will be hosted on our Career Center patio, but we will provide, the table, chairs, canopy, so you can be able to participate that day. So we're excited, and we do hope that you guys will join us. So again, we'll send out a direct link after this webinar. And then for those of you that maybe your hiring process doesn't quite align in the fall, and maybe you have a heavier recruitment cycle later in the year, we also are going to do some more kind of just-in-time recruitment events. So we started this last year, and we're excited to do it again this year and really ramp it up. So this is more boutique, but opportunities to recruit work study students throughout the year. So you basically will be able to host a table on our patio, similar to what you see. We usually have, anywhere from, 2 to 3 organizations come out to table. We market your opportunities to students, and they will come and meet with you during that 3-hour period. So we're going to have dates for November, January, March, and April. So we would love to partner with some of you to come out and join us for those happy hour on the patio events. All right, and then this is the important emails to know. So as you see, our team is made up of folks both on financial aid as well as Career Center. So if you have questions specific to work study awards and student eligibility, or the hiring process and in the employment contract, those are going to be questions for financial aid, and you would want to direct those to workstudy@ucr.edu. Or if you have questions related to handshake or recruitment, that is going to be our Career Center @ucr.edu. And so we have more than one person who is monitoring those inboxes, and should be able to provide a pretty quick turnaround for you. So With that, I'm going to pass it to Alex. She's going to go over just a few FAQs and then we'll get to our Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry, Leticia.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry, Leticia.
Well, Alex has spoken enough.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go over some quick Q&As that we have, and then also after that we have it open for any questions. But I also am gonna be going over. We have 7 responses already of questions, so we'll go over those questions as well. So first, just going over a couple of Q&As. The first question is, we are interested in posting both work study and non-work study positions in my department. How can we begin this process? So basically, you're gonna start by, if you have the 2 positions, you need to post the 2 positions. One will be posted as a work study and the other one will be posted as on-campus student employment, which is a non-work study. This will ensure that all students can view the posting, both on campus, both for the on-campus non-work study, and then also the one that's the work study. So there's an image there that you can see that. And then next screen. And then there's frequently asked questions. Number 2, how do I provide students with a copy of the work study job descriptions? You or somebody within your department will need to include the job description as part of the DocuSign process or provide the students with a PDF copy of the job description. As Alex had mentioned it before, that is something that's very important that you need to add to the DocuSign process. So how you do this, you need to open the approved job description in Handshake, right click on it and just select print. When you're printing, just choose save as PDF, and then from there you should be able to send it to or attach it to the DocuSign once you save it as a PDF. If the position is reserved, the student will not have access to this posting, as mentioned before, as it will expire immediately. In such cases, it will be the employer's responsibility to attach the job description to the employment contract via DocuSign. And then we have a little QR code for you to sorry, to take a picture for instructions for later. Our third frequently asked questions, can my student employment have their work study increased? Yes, your student can contact the work study email at workstudy@ucr.edu to ask for an increase by email. If possible, financial aid will increase. So basically the way that we look at this is if a student wants an increase, we have to make sure that it is within the student's cost of attendance on their award so that it has not gone over. If the student has loans that has not been taken out, it's still in offer status, and the student does want an increase of work study, we will decrease the loans and add the work study. So it may happen, every case is different, every file is different. So that's why we ask the students to just contact us and then we could actually review the file at that point. If the student has already exceeded their initial allocation and your department was charged 100%, you can use the increase to submit a salary cost transfer, but that cannot be done until it was approved. So once we increase their funds, then the department could ask for those, SCT. You can also allow the student to continue working with your department, but then again, you're using, that's when you're using the additional funds if it was increased.
Leticia, just to add, I realized there was just a little error. So the student is going to be contacting finaid@ucr.edu. So just to mention that for folks. So kind of the employer facing email is going to be that work study one, and then the student facing one is the FinAid at UCR. So we'll make sure when we send these slides out to update that piece.
Yeah, so that's it. The student will go into the FinAid, like she mentioned, and then work study is for employers.
Yeah. All right.
So with that, let me go ahead and look at the questions and I'll geared to you, Michelle, if you could answer it, and also Alex as well. So the first one is due to the amount of work required to correct via manual SCTs. Yes, we know that because we have to do the same thing sometimes. Is it possible to contact before wages are charged to 69993? So just basically wages being charged to your account, I'm assuming. It just depends on what the issue is. So when it comes to what Alex was mentioning prior to at the beginning when she was talking about making sure that you have the right pool ID, that's something that's really out of our hands. So as long as you're looking at and you requested the right pool ID, your service, your HR provider is putting the right one, then you should be fine when it comes to that. The other option, what we can do is to provide when a student, let's say, for instance, Alex had mentioned this as well prior, that when a student stops meeting SAP, so the GPA goes below a 2.0. One thing that I would suggest that you do talk to your students and just keep a check in on them, making sure that they're still enrolled in classes, that they're in at least 6 units or more. They are completing all their classes, they're getting good grades. Just have a check-in with them, because if you realize that they're not enrolled, either they had just graduated or they stopped taking courses, they ended up having to drop their classes. We actually run reports monthly basis. So we will catch that, but we might not catch it on time. And then that's where the SCT may come through. So that's why we say it's very important to keep that keep those check-ins with your students. Did I answer that question? Did I help at all? Okay. If not, just go ahead. You should still be able to ask another question. The next question: are student employees subject to the winter intersession curtailment period? The slide references that they can work up to 39 hours per week during intersessions, with possible work dates between 12:15 to 1:05. Last year, the closure dates were 12:3 to 1:2, meaning students could only work about a week. That is correct. Usually when campus is closed during that time, we don't have peers working. We don't have our students working, our federal work studies. Next question, can students work more than 8 hours in one day with a meal break? Do you want to
They
help
work
me with
more
that
than
one? 'Cause
8
it's
hours?
per law. I think it's by law, it has to be 8 hours max. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, Michelle.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean on those student employment guidelines to look at the policy around that. So maybe whoever was the one who asked that question, that's something I could dig in a little bit deeper for you. But yeah, there would maybe be overtime pay that would have to go to the student, but there could be some issues around work study being able to be used for overtime. So I would say if we can follow up on that question directly, we might have to do a little bit more digging on that question, but that's a good one.
Next question, do students need to earn a minimum amount for their work study award in order to be considered for an award in subsequent years? So yes, they have to actually have worked. There's no minimum as long as they had any work study earnings in one year, they'll automatically, as long as they're still eligible for Federal Work Study on their financial aid, they will be awarded the following year.
I will say there are some exceptions that we've seen where if, say, for different circumstances, a student was not able to work, they may be able to appeal that and request to be reconsidered. But I think, Leticia, you can correct me if I'm wrong in terms of what that timeline looks like, but that may not happen until maybe mid-year
Yeah.
when you all have a stronger sense of what the funding is looking like. Would you say
Yeah,
that's true?
we're looking more towards mid-year.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Are students able to be granted any additional Federal Work Studies? So yes, they would have to do an appeal to see if they are eligible for Federal Work Study for additional funds. So there is an appeal process through the student's file that they could actually complete and submit for us to review the file. Again, it's based off of what they have left in their cost of attendance to add it. Next question, can a student work 2 different jobs and be paid through Federal Work Study at both? Yes, but also keep in mind that the amount that they are awarded, the 3,000, as an example, what Alex had mentioned, that 3,000 is for the whole year. So it would be that 3,000 award for both these departments.
Yeah.
So it can happen, but it's still that amount.
Yeah, just to also, I forgot to mention that. That's a good question to ask during the interview process, because sometimes I find that students aren't always forthright in sharing if they have another on-campus position. So you might want to ask that question, like, are you working in another on-campus position? Are you utilizing that work study award? So again, really important to know that as you're deciding whether or not you want to move forward with that candidate.
Next question, are work study jobs limited to undergrads or can graduate students be eligible? So graduate students are eligible. They just need to make sure that they have they're awarded Federal Work Study, but it is on their award. Next question, remind us SAP at 2.0 GPA. Yeah, satisfactory academic progress for financial aid. We have the GPA is a minimum of 2.0 GPA. You have the 67 completion rate. So as long as they're completing 67 of what they've attempted, they have to be the 67 completion rate, and also the time frame. So the time frame is making sure that they're not over the attempted amount of units, which is 270 attempted units, which is basically 150% of the 180 that they're required to complete their degree. So when we look at that, as long as they're not meeting that maximum time frame, again, it's 270 attempted units. The next one is, do you have a list of all title codes available to undergrads and or grad students?
That is going to be in those student employment guidelines. So again, we'll do a follow-up email after this, and we'll make sure to link that one directly. And again, I would bookmark that as a resource for you all. But yes, that'll include those title codes.
Okay. Next question, can we have a greater explanation or an expansion on the new M classification? At our museum, we have an education assistant position that will assist with education programs for our community. Would this qualify under the new pool code? Do you want to take that, or do you want me kind of explain more about the civic engagement?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the civic engagement is more for like the roles of individuals who basically are learning government work, how to participate in the civic and political life, like how when like volunteering for voting and election. I'm trying to think of the wording. Help me out here.
Registration,
Oh, yeah,
vote.
like the tolls, like to working in the tolls, working in the voting and elections. Um, it's basically learning about the political system, helping with voter registration, discussing social issues. They could be actually in a community project as well with regards to any elections coming up.
Yeah, I think just civic engagement and civic education could be pretty broad. So again, I think if you think that there could be some alignment there, we're happy to provide some feedback if you're not sure if yours would qualify. But I do know there are some on-campus offices that engage. So we're happy to chat with you about that.
Next question, where is the web link to the work study new hire form and when will it be activated? In the past, the link usually goes to a dead using the summer and reactivates at some point closer to the fall quarter, excuse me.
Yeah, that's a good question. So that is correct. We have it set up where, it refreshes for the new year, at a certain point. And so we have it set up where, we've confirmed that the transfer has happened and that, starting August 21st, once students, are applying to those jobs. We include that link in every single job posting. So that's in the disclaimer that we're putting in every posting. So they can access it there, but they can also access it on our website. So students have a different work study page than what we have for our employers. And I'll show you real quick. So if you were to get to our website, it would go to students, gain experience, and then work study. So that is going to be the student page. And then you'll see the button on the side here is going to be that work study new hire form. So again, it's not open currently because we haven't launched the program yet for 25-26, but starting August 21st, students should be able to access that new hire form. For those of you who have already, got your job posting up and are ready to start the process. So they can go there as well as the job posting.
Thank you, Michelle. And then the next question, I think we have about 3 more questions. Will only students who receive work study be eligible to apply for these positions now?
Yes. So, students are accepting their award at different time, and even maybe some are still working out their financial aid package. But for those who have already received those award letters, they would have to accept that award on our web first. And then once they take that step, it usually is just a few days after that, they will have access to Handshake to be able to view those Handshake positions. So we plan on doing an orientation with them here pretty soon so that they too will know what they need to do to start applying for jobs. But yes, they're going to have access here real soon to start applying. And they just have to take that first step on our web to accept their award.
Okay, and then the next question, hired students prior to the end of the school year that are new work study hired, can my posting be closed for only those 3 students?
Yes, so that would be a reserved position. So you would only need to post that position once. If it's the same role but done by 3 students, you can still just post it once as a reserved position, and then we'll expire it, and then you'll just use that same job description for those 3 students in their employment contract. So yeah, we do get that question a lot.
Okay, and then the last question, you might have just answered it, but with the reserve rehiring students, will this be a closed position on Handshake that they apply to?
No, they do not need to apply. If you know they're work study eligible and you know that you want to hire or rehire them, then they do not need to apply. We will, but again, just make sure to add reserved in the title so that we can expire that right away.
And that was it.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you all. Thank you for staying a few extra minutes with us so we could get through all those questions. Those were excellent questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.